All right, so we're diving deep into the Shawshank Redemption
Okay.
and why it still matters decades later.
Yeah.
Everyone knows the basic plot. Guy gets thrown in prison, fights for freedom. But this deep dive, this is for our listeners who think there's always more to uncover. We're going way beyond the surface with this one, Steve.
Absolutely.
We're going to look at how this film dropped right in the middle of the early 90s, became more than just a movie. It's this time capsule of hope, this masterclass in storytelling.
Yeah, and what gets me is how a film, it had a quiet start, but it ended up capturing the entire feeling of that era. Like, it's a story about resilience, and it just came out when the world was craving that.
Exactly. And it's funny, our sources pointed out that it premiered at TIFF.
Right.
Not some big Hollywood thing. That's like word-of-mouth success at its finest, don't you think?
Yeah, for sure.
But before we get into all that, we've got to set the scene, right?
Okay.
It's the early 90s. Got to feel it to understand why Shawshank hit the way it did.
Imagine a world just coming out from the Cold War, like the shadow of it. You've got this wave of optimism. Everyone's thinking new doors are opening. But at the same time, there's this giant question mark hanging over everything. Like, okay, the Berlin Wall's down, now what? And
Yeah.
culturally, you've got independent cinema challenging those big blockbuster films, right?
Totally.
Offering something real, more about humans. Remember Pulp Fiction at Cannes?
Oh, yeah?
Big winner there. Shawshank kind of exists in that same space.
I see it.
A story about characters, not explosions and special effects.
And that's what's so interesting. Like our source mentioned, the Shawshank Redemption premiered at TIFF. It's like embracing that indie spirit.
Right.
But you've got this story about a guy wrongly imprisoned, clinging to hope, building a life inside prison walls.
Powerful stuff.
And you're telling me those themes didn't grab people, especially back then. A world in flux, everyone trying to figure out where they fit in.
Come on, of course they did. Think about it. Back then, anxieties were high, recession, politics changing rapidly. People were desperate for control, for belief in something better. And Shawshank, even though it's literally set in a prison, becomes this mirror for all those feelings. Wanting freedom, pushing against a system that feels rigged, it's all there, making it resonate way beyond those prison walls.
That is fascinating when you put it like that. It's like watching this story, and it's this perfect storm of timing and these timeless human themes.
Exactly.
And speaking of, hitting home, our source mentioned watching this in high school.
Oh, wow.
And those post-film talks about hope, pushing through, even when things are bleak. That's the thing about this movie. It makes you think. It sparks something.
Totally. The Shawshank Redemption, it wasn't just a fun night out at the movies, it was a moment.
Right.
People weren't just watching Andy Dufresne crawl through that sewage tunnel, they were grappling with huge questions about justice, about the human spirit, about what it means to be free.
Man. And that kind of leads us to Shawshank's legacy. Right. It's not just how it made us feel.
Yeah.
This is a film that's woven into how stories are told now, like our source mentioned.
Yeah.
How it kind of changed the game.
Right.
Paved the way for those character-driven stories. The deep dives into what makes people tick.
Totally. Think about the shows you love, the movies you keep going back to.
Right.
Chances are it's those complex characters you're drawn to, the ones facing these messy dilemmas, the real-life stuff.
Yeah.
Shawshank, with its focus on Andy and Red, their journey, their internal struggles.
Absolutely.
It's a precursor to that entire shift.
Ah.
We went from spectacle, from the big explosions and effects, to soul.
Wow.
And Shawshank was right there leading the charge.
It's wild to think about, right? Like you're watching this movie from the 90s and it feels like the blueprint for so much of the good stuff we still get today.
Oh, 100%.
And we can't forget the impact it had on Stephen King adaptations.
Oh, huge.
Before Shawshank, he was known for horror, for freaking us out.
Oh, yeah, he was the master of horror.
Right.
But Shawshank showed everyone there was so much more to his writing. It's like
Totally.
studios suddenly saw the potential, right? The drama, the emotional depth in stories they might have just seen as genre before.
Yeah.
It opened the floodgates. Think about The Green Mile, Stand By Me.
Oh, yeah.
All these adaptations showing a different side of Stephen King.
It's true. Shawshank was this bridge between King's, chilling horror and these really human stories that just wreck you emotionally.
Totally.
In the best way possible.
Best way.
And speaking of impact, our source dug up this really cool trivia about the movie's title.
Oh.
I'm a sucker for a good behind-the-scenes story.
Oh, absolutely. Me too.
And this one's a gem.
Okay.
So you might not know this, but the film wasn't always the Shawshank Redemption. The original title was, well, kind of clunky,
Is that right?
not as impactful.
Really? Okay, let's hear it.
So, get this. They were going to call it Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption.
Huh. Just like the novella.
Yeah, exactly. Just like the novella.
Okay.
But Rita Hayworth, she's just one part of the film, even if it is an important one.
Right, right.
But that title, it doesn't really get at the core of the story, you know?
No, I don't think so.
Sticking with the Shawshank Redemption, it puts the focus on the setting, on the whole idea of hope, of second chances.
Yeah.
It's subtle,
It is.
but it completely changes how you approach the film.
Oh, for sure.
That is marketing goals, my friend.
100%. That's knowing your audience.
Talk about a branding lesson. They'd really cracked the code on that one.
They did.
But speaking of, our source brings up something I never actually knew. The whole Oscars journey.
Oh, right.
7 nominations.
Yeah.
And
not one.
Not a single win.
I know.
7 nominations. And The Shawshank Redemption gets shut out.
It's crazy.
How does that even happen?
Tough year.
It's got to be tougher than sweeping the awards.
It was a crazy year, up against Forrest Gump, Pulp Fiction.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
But honestly, I think it kind of speaks to what makes Shawshank so special, you know?
What do you mean?
It wasn't flashy. It wasn't trying to be trendy or anything. Shawshank was a slow burn, right?
Yeah.
A story that just unfolds with this quiet power. It's like, you know those albums, those books that people sleep on?
Right, yeah.
And then years later, everyone's rediscovering them, realizing, wait, this was a masterpiece all along.
I know exactly what you mean.
That's Shawshank. It wasn't this instant sensation. It found its people.
Wow.
And that slow and steady rise, that's a testament to how much power it has. People connected with this film on a deep level.
I can see that.
And that's what's kept it alive.
It makes you wonder, though, how the film would have landed in today's world.
Oh, interesting.
Imagine Shawshank just dropping now, in the age of streaming, instant gratification, endless content.
Wow. Right. Would it get lost in the shuffle? Just another title in this sea of options? Or would it break through all the noise?
It's kind of hard to wrap your head around,
It really is.
because you've got Shawshank. This movie all about patience.
Right.
About that hope that simmers and builds, you know. Would it even, I don't know, would it land in today's world? Everything's so fast.
Yeah, it's all about what's next.
Right. Instant gratification, the next viral thing.
Exactly. It's like our attention spans are pulled in a million different directions. But here's the thing.
Okay.
At the core of it all, I think we still crave those stories that really move us, the ones that feel real.
100%. We might love our crazy, fast-paced world, but when a story takes its time, lets you sink into it, into the characters, that hits different, man.
It's true. That's the beauty of Shawshank.
It really is.
And let's not forget what it's actually about, right? Fighting for freedom, questioning those systems that feel rigged, holding on to hope when everything seems
Oh, it's so relevant.
bleak. I mean, come on, doesn't that resonate even more now?
Today. Are you kidding?
With everything going on, all this uncertainty?
Yeah. It's crazy how a movie from the 90s can feel so spot on right now in this moment.
Yeah, it's those universal truths, right? The human experience, that stuff never gets old.
It really doesn't.
And maybe that's the biggest takeaway from all this, from our Shawshank deep dive. It wasn't just a movie of its time. It tapped into something way deeper.
Beyond all that.
About who we are, what we're all searching for.
And what's so powerful about it, it doesn't give you the easy answers.
Right.
It makes you think, gets these conversations going, you know, but of justice, about resilience, about what it really means to actually break free.
Exactly. And that's why it still matters, you know, why people are still finding it, debating it, finding comfort in it. It reminds us that even in the darkest spots, even surrounded by walls, hope can still bloom.
And that the journey, the fight for something better, it's always worth it.
Always.
No matter what.
No matter the odds.
Man, so well said.
Yeah.
So to everyone listening, whether you're revisiting Shawshank, maybe you're just discovering it now, I'm curious, what hits you the most today? In this world right now, what resonates with you, let us know. This conversation, it doesn't stop here. Keep diving deep, everybody.